Welcome back to another episode of Extra Time with Girls on the Ball. We are well and truly in the middle of an international break, and boy have we had some drama so far. At Wembley, let's get into it. I'm Rachel.
I'm Sophie.
And this is Extra Time with Girls on the Ball. So in today's short, sharp episode, we are going to be looking at, and I do feel like it's going to be shorter, we don't have like 97 fixtures to go through, England's dramatic comeback at Wembley, keeping their Olympic hopes alive, just. You can explain the permutations of that, Soph.
I can try.
We will have a look at how the other home nations and the Republic of Ireland got on in their Nations League matches and what it means for them. We'll find out Sophie's standout moment of the week. Okay, we will. And finally, we will have a chat about the under-23s who are also in action at the moment and hear from Aggie Beever Jones and Laura Blindkilde Brown on how camp is going. So if you haven't already, before we get into it, subscribe, review, like, do all the things you do on social media with our podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you're engaging with the video too and subscribing to our channel. We'd love to hear from you. Leave us a review. We appreciate all the feedback. Okay, we got to move on, Soph, to Wembley. In front of 71,000. Chilly old evening it was on Friday. The temperatures were dropping. I think at one point it was snowing at Wembley, not when the football was on, but during the day. But my God, did it heat up on the pitch.
Yeah, they definitely brought the heat. It was a dramatic game, I think, is to say the least. I think England started pretty well, and it's been probably a theme of them that they start well, then they make a mistake and concede, and then it all goes to pot a bit, and that was basically their first half. So
let's rewind before we get into England's great start, dip, goal, rewind a little bit, because I want to ask you, first of all, the team lineup when it came out. What was your reaction? Because we did, of course, have Lauren Hemp playing in that number 9 role, rather than potentially her generally traditional wing role, and we were back to a back 4 as well. What did you make of it?
I liked it, to be honest. It was something a little bit different. We saw Lauren Hemp in the number 9 when we beat the USA at Wembley last year. It's not a role that she's unfamiliar with. She can play it. I think she is very good at stretching a defence, and her running can stretch that back 4, and with Fran Kirby sat in behind her, and then with the help of Lauren James and Chloe Kelly, the idea was, I guess, to try and move the Dutch around the pitch well. So, yeah, I think the idea was there. I could understand the concept when the team news came out. I think changes had to happen in the second half for obvious reasons, but I'm not so sure it was a mistake to make that call in the first instance.
No, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say a mistake. I was a little bit unsure with Hemp in the 9. I can understand starting players who are in form, and Alessia Russo and Rachel Daly aren't currently banging in loads of goals for their respective domestic teams. But I was a little bit unsure with putting someone not in their natural position. And I did find at times that Hemp drifted wide naturally, and kind of meant that there was no number 9. Like sometimes Lucy Bronze stepped up, but sometimes she'd be out with the ball and there wouldn't be someone in the middle for it.
But I think that's natural. Like Russo drifts wide as well. Like when she's a number 9, she will come out onto the flanks, and it just requires people to be with her. The problem in the first half, I think, is that no one was really with Lauren Hemp. So sometimes when she broke forward, she was looking up and she was all alone. You need to have intelligent players who know that when your forward drifts out to the right or the left or the right one needs to come into the middle. It needs to be fluid. It can't be that structured. So I think that was probably the problem, is that no one was filling in that role, taking like the sort of I can't remember the word, but like the initiative themselves to kind of take up those positions. They were kind of like a bit disjointed in that. So it meant that when Russo Hemp was taken out wide, there was just left a gaping hole through the middle.
The first 10 minutes, as we touched on, were really positive. I thought England played really well, created some chances, maybe not anything super clear cut, but they were certainly looking dangerous in the Netherlands box.
They had the chance before the goal.
Like the chance for the goal, which was clearly a corner, because Van Damselaar pulled off an unreal save, and you could see the flight of the ball.
I could see it in real time. I was like I am sure
that is the corner.
Got that. Like you could see the deflection in the movement. So they did in the first 10 minutes. They did create a fair amount, but it was just making, and the Dutch made a huge amount of mistakes. Like kept passing out from the back and passing to an English player, and the problem is that England need to capitalise. When the Dutch were struggling, I think they were struggling in that atmosphere as well in the first 10 minutes. They need to be clinical and they need to take control of the game. And you score early, and I don't think those counter-attack goals happen necessarily. The problem is the longer it went on, the longer you thought it was a pattern again that England wouldn't score.
Yeah.
And then the Dutch just needed one moment of defensive
or two
poor quality. No, but for the first game.
I know
well,
that, and like that Palova, I thought Palova played really well.
Yeah.
I thought Jill Ward played really well. I thought two players who are currently playing in the WSL and playing well did so for their national team as well. Maybe not so much. I feel like some players who are maybe are top of their game at the moment for club weren't quite as good for England, particularly in the first half. But Palova, I enjoyed that battle with Charles. I thought she was really good, and the first goal came from a lovely pass from her, and it was a lovely pass, but the defending was shocking. For Bierenstein to have two defenders on her, to be able to A, get that ball, and then B, have time to take a touch and get around them and take a shot, was just really bad defending.
Yeah, no, There's no going.
We don't go into detail.
There's no beating about the bush. They should have done better. There is no way that Jess Carter should have let that ball go around her, and there is no way that they both should have let Beerenstein go through them.
Lucy Bronze and Jess Carter absolutely should have been able to get rid of that danger. But a goal from Bierenstein, and to be fair, we have in the past spoken about her lack of product at the end of all of her running, and oftentimes we don't get the goal at the end of it. And my God, she had a lovely little pair of shooting boots on in the first half at Wembley. She did get the second goal. Another defensive mix-up. Again, I think there was some errors in the midfield as well for that ball even to come in. But again, she's getting around far too many players to put that ball in the back of the net.
The first clearance is poor. Then Jess Carter doesn't commit to a challenge. I mean, if you're going to take someone down, just take someone down there. She sort of pulls out the challenge and allows the ball to go through her. Alex Greenwood gets taken off, taken the wrong way by Bernstein, and then there's obviously the mistake by Mary Earps, who on any other day will save that shot, but I wouldn't put the onus on Earps, to be honest, because there were
so many mistakes.
There were two or three mistakes in the build-up to lead to that goal, and a goalkeeper's mistakes are always the clearest. Yeah,
I felt like it was catching. It was like one person made a mistake, and then the other person caught the mistake, and then the other person caught the mistake, and Mary Earps was like, I sure fucking will make a mistake as well. So yeah, she was pretty gutted afterwards. But yeah, I wouldn't put all the blame on her. Second half, there was obviously a huge team talk because second half was great. I mean, if you were neutral watching this game, that second half was so enjoyable. The whole game was enjoyable. Like, I'm growing to really like this fixture. I feel like there's a really nice rivalry, but also respect between the two teams, and you're kind of guaranteed a real clash between the two of them when they meet, and I think this one delivered. Beth Mead came on at half time,
changed the energy,
changed the game. Alessia Russo came on later in the half. I thought she had a really good impact as well, and we've talked a lot about her not scoring goals, but we've also talked a lot about what she does off the ball and what she does when she's not scoring goals, and that was a great example on Friday night.
Yeah, I've said it multiple times since Friday, but any striker who's wanting to learn how to forward, in terms of all of the hard work off the ball, but also the movement, the stretching of the defenders, the hold-up play, needs to watch Alessia Russo in that 22 minutes because she was superb. She put in a performance that really did trouble the Dutch defenders, and yes, they had a couple. Jackie Groner went out injured, and that might have shaken things up a bit, but Egarilla is she's a pretty good player herself. So I think I think a lot of credit should go to Alessia Russo. Beth Mead is looking like she can bring energy to a team that's been lacking in energy at times. I think the way that she comes on and really takes a game head on is really admirable, especially given the injury that she's come back from.
She really she backs herself in 1v1 situations.
And it lifts everyone around her.
Yeah.
The first goal was her challenge in the right back position to set Lucy away. That led up to that first goal for England.
And she had an involvement in the second goal as well.
Yeah, so she was really impactful, and I wouldn't be surprised if she starts on Tuesday.
Well,
but I just think that was kind of the half from England that we've been missing for a little while.
Since the World Cup.
It was superb. The energy, the desire, the fight, the determination, the changes made a difference, and I think it's been... Yeah, massive. That's been the problem recently. Is there's not always been that energy, for different reasons.
We spoke about this on our live because Georgia Stanway with ITV before the match spoke about the kind of mental side of coming back from a World Cup and the downer after a World Cup and how, because the Nations League started so quickly, she literally just put that to the side. So it's something to consider that these players are still dealing with that and having to pick themselves back up and be really competitive in these matches now. And I think that's what's been lacking for England. And it was like they needed this to be looking over the precipice of not qualifying potentially for the Olympics, not topping their group. They've all this expectation to win all the time. And it was that moment that kind of shook them. And you could see that when the game ended, because it ends 3-2, how disappointed the team were. And, you know, I'm really glad Ella Toone got the goal, first of all. We got a little bit of a celebration from her. Not really. Nobody really celebrated, for God's sake. But, you know, that energy, she picked up the ball and she went straight back down to the halfway line because she wanted to get a fourth goal because it would make the permutations a bit better for England. But it's that fight that they've been missing. It's a shame it's taken so long for them, or this situation for them to get it back. But talk us through the permutation, Soph, because England obviously won 3-2. They're on the same amount of points as the Netherlands, who sit top of the group on goal difference, and it's a better goal difference than England. Their goal difference is 4, England's is 1.
Yeah, so there's a 3-goal switch. So yeah, so on Tuesday night, England have to beat Scotland to have a chance at the Olympics. That's the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then it comes down to the goal difference, because the head-to-head between the Dutch and the English is now equal. So if the Dutch win and England win, they have to win by 4 goals more than the Dutch to beat that goal difference, I think.
Because 3 goals...
I can't remember what happens when it...
3 goals will put them level.
And then it's goals scored or something, I
think. Yeah.
But anyway...
And it's head-to-head as well, isn't it?
No, head-to-head is done.
Oh, okay.
So head-to-head is even now.
Oh, God, okay, right.
So the reason why they were so wanting to...
it would have been goals scored against the Dutch.
Yeah, so they would have had a better goal difference
against the Dutch. Okay. Well, we see now, we understand.
So that would have meant just 3 points would have done, whereas now 3 points and goal difference matter. So England basically need to score 4 goals and hope that Belgium draw or... I
mean, if the Dutch drop points and England win, England don't need to worry about goal difference.
Yeah.
But if they both win, goal difference comes into play.
Yeah.
And it needs to be a decent amount.
Well, you need to beat the Dutch. So if the Dutch win 2-0, you need to win 6-0.
So it'll be interesting.
So you are relying on Belgium as well to either keep it tight or win the game.
Who have been doing well as well.
They've done really well. So England. The first thing that England need to do though is just win the game.
Okay.
Like that's the only thing that they can control how many they score. Sometimes you can't control that, but they can control the 3 points, and then you know how much you score by.
So it's a big game. I'm interested to see whether we're going to see numbers like up on the side of the pitch so that the players know what the score is in the other match or what's going to be happening. Because it is really all to play for. It's really left it to the last minute. It's going to be very exciting. I want you to tell our listeners what you think of the silly narrative that people are questioning the integrity of the Nations League because there's people saying that Scotland might throw the game so they can get to the Olympics, when realistically there's probably about 2 players who might actually get onto that team.
Scotland aren't going to throw the game. They are hosting England at Hampden, and if anyone knows about the Scots' relationship with English, they are not going to want to let England get one over them on home soil, especially. It's just not going to happen. Yes, the Olympics is a weird quirk of the system. Yes, UEFA should have kept them apart.
It was always the case.
But then you could have said if Scotland had miraculously won their group and England and Scotland had met in the semi-finals, there's actually maybe even more of a problem. So, you know, it's a situation that is just due to the Olympic conundrum. Scotland, there are many reasons why England could do it on Tuesday, or there are possibilities why England could do it. Scotland have been relegated, so their Euro hopes are
pretty down.
They have lost Caroline Weir, and Erin Cuthbert got stretchered off. I don't know if she's fit or anything, but she got stretchered off on Friday, so that's not good. Basically, you would say they're 2 best players.
England are better.
England have better quality and better strength and depth. England
have to win
and produce that performance against Wembley, and Scotland have not been producing. They played pretty well in the first game against England. Other than that, they haven't really played very well.
If anything, it shows you how Scotland turn up against England,
and they have a bit of a questionable coach in terms of his coaching abilities, in my point of view.
Speaking of Scotland, we will move on then. That was a nice segue, well done. Belgium won, Scotland won. So that kept things interesting because Belgium only picked up the point. And as you said, Cuthbert was taken off injured, which is a real shame. Hopefully she's okay. So Scotland will be relegated now from Group A. Then we had Wales 1, Iceland 2. Wales also relegated from Group A.
I'll just add in, it's such a problem for those two teams, because if you think about Wales, maybe more so than Scotland. Scotland have kind of regressed in the last 4 years. You know, they qualified for 2 major tournaments and then haven't qualified for the last 2. So it might not be a surprise in terms of the results, but in terms of when you look at that squad should be playing in major tournaments. For Wales, they were on this trajectory where they were going in one direction. And yes, it was being slow and they didn't make the World Cup, but you could see progress. And now they're going to have to go through, I think, 2 playoffs. If they do well in League B, they're going to have to go through at least 2 playoffs, I think, to get through to have a chance at the Euros.
And you said to me the other day the reason Wales are in League A is because of Russia not being involved. Is that correct?
I think that's why they squeaked in.
Because aren't they below Ireland in rankings?
So it's done on UEFA rankings, not FIFA rankings. So
right.
there is a reason why Wales was squeaked into League A. It might have been the Russia thing.
Okay.
But I think it's also it's just, I think there needs to be a better way of doing it, because the UEFA coefficients are done in quite a funny way.
Everyone wanted the Nations League and it was going to fix everything. We also then had Albania 0, Northern Ireland 4. Finally, Northern Ireland find their shooting boots. Hello. They're now sitting second in the group, right? So they're likely going to have a playoff.
So it depends, I guess, what Hungary do. As well, because Northern Ireland are playing the Republic of Ireland, so you would expect the Republic of Ireland to win going on.
We'll see.
No, but based on the result from the first leg, the home leg for the Republic. So you would expect the Republic to win, and then Hungary are playing Albania. So it's still between those, I think, who gets that second playoff place, and that would be really good, because then they can have a game against a League A team, a third place League A team, to get a League A position, so they still have a chance.
Okay. And also shout out to Simone McGill, who's back in the squad and back scoring, so that's always brilliant to see. And then, of course, Republic of Ireland did play Hungary. They won 1-0. It was an own goal that meant Ireland kept their unbeaten streak, or their winning streak, actually, in their group. They were already going to be promoted before this window. They're going into Group A next year. But there was some criticism for a bit of a lacklustre performance and maybe not as much rotation as maybe people expected. Is it fair criticism? What do you think?
I mean, you always want your team to be performing at their best, right? But I think you have to also understand that I don't think it's an excuse, but they qualified with 2 games to go. The pressure is off them, and I think the most important thing is keeping up the winning record, to be honest.
Also, it's a new experience for Ireland.
It's a new experience. I think they've had a long year. You know, we're coming into the last game of the year. I think they'll be really amped up for the Northern Ireland game, because I think when you play your neighbours,
Windsor Park,
that does, so that will give you extra energy. But I think when you've already done the job, it's hard to sometimes maintain that.
And the main thing is they got the 3 points. There were some other surprising results around the Nations League, if you haven't seen them. Italy beating Spain 3-2. Sweden losing to Switzerland, meaning for the first time they're not going to be at an Olympics.
And what is massively more annoying for Sweden about that is they're playing Spain on Tuesday. So if they'd won that game,
they could have won the group.
They could have won. If they'd beaten Spain, they could have won the group. So they massively dropped the ball in that. And no disrespect to Switzerland, but Switzerland have been in possibly the worst form you can imagine. So to drop the ball in that, they will be kicking themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we've come to the moment of the pod that you love so much. Your standout moment of the week.
This is going to be really easy and really boring. I'm going to go with Ella Toon's goal, 91st minute goal at Wembley, just because the drama of the situation, and I'm really happy for her because she's clearly not been in form in a good few months, and I think we're starting to see glimpses of it, really, really coming back for the club and now for country. And I think scoring at Wembley is what she does.
What's amazing though,
that will do her the world of
good. What's amazing with Ella Toon, and we often talk about Chloe Kelly getting those dramatic goals for England, but Ella Toon scored the first goal in the Euros final at Wembley against Germany. She scored the goal in the finalissima, and she scores that goal to keep the Olympic hopes alive.
She just loves Wembley.
She loves Wembley. She loves the pressure. Well done, Ella. Standout moment of the week. Okay, we're going to move on to the under-23s. who are currently taking part in the European League. Tell us a little bit about what that is, Soph.
So basically the European League was introduced, the Under-23 European League was introduced to try and make Under-23s more competitive, because before they would just go off on random friendlies that weren't really structured. So sometimes they would play at home, sometimes they would play away, but it was always a bit up in the air. So I think the idea was to try and make Under-23 level more competitive, because there is a massive gap between Under-19s and the Under-23s, and trying to bridge that gap then to the seniors is really hard, because if they're not getting competitive football. So the idea is to try and make it competitive, make something to play for. So it started in the autumn, so in the first window, and England have gone unbeaten. So they're in pretty good form. There is a lot of quality in that squad, and I think getting to, it's sort of a little bit maybe more professional environment in terms of like having to travel regularly with the squad. They've been to Italy, they've been to Sweden, like, have they been to Sweden yet? But you know what I mean, they've been around Europe, they've been travelling around Europe as a squad, and on a regular basis, so they're getting really used to that kind of in-camp mode.
It's something Grace Clinton touched on. If you haven't listened to our Super Sub episode that we did last week, we chatted briefly with Grace Clinton at St George's Park, and that was something I asked her about, the step up from under-23s to senior, and she's saying at the under-23s it's not that it's super strict, but it's really structured, right? And you've got like lots of meetings and stuff, and it is that kind of getting you used to that style, I guess, so that when you bridge into senior it's not such a big jump.
Being away from home, like being properly away from home, like they might travel with their club every so often, like Aggie Beever Jones has gone Champions League, but there's only a relatively new thing for her, so it's learning how to do all of that surrounds the game before you get to the senior level, where it really, really counts. Not that the under-23s doesn't count, but you know what I mean.
No, I know what you mean. We had hoped to go and see them playing tonight, but we are going to the FSA Awards, the Football Supporters Association Awards, tonight, so unfortunately we can't go. So instead, Sophie was lucky enough to check in with Laura Blindkilde Brown and Aggie Beever Jones to see how they were getting on at camp. So here's what they had to say.
Hey Aggie and Laura, great to see you. I was just going to ask about this kind of European League that's been happening in the under-23s, and how you've really felt it's kind of improving you, having that kind of competition, the fact that you get to travel away, and it's a bit more structured than maybe it was in the past.
I think it's really good because it mirrors the seniors a lot. So when some of us start to go to the seniors, we already know what it's going to be like, and it gives us an image of what it will be like. And the games are really competitive, and we're playing top European teams, so it is really good, yeah.
And we're currently top, which is always nice.
That certainly helps. And like I know, like your journeys from like the under-19s and through that, it's been a busy couple of years for the both of you, both at club and with country. And kind of how have you felt that step up into senior football?
Yeah, I think if I'm honest, the whole England pathway has kind of been preparing us for this at moment in time, and obviously Grace and Kiara have both been called up to the seniors, which shows the pathway's definitely working. And I think with the likes of people like Ebbs and Robbo coming back with us and giving their feedback and what it's like there, it's really like motivating, I know, for myself and probably for Laura too, that it just pushes us to work even harder to hopefully get that call up one day. Yeah,
because I was going to ask about that, kind of seeing people go up and coming back down. I guess it makes that link, that the distance between the seniors and the under-23s a little smaller than it probably ever was. Does that really make it more tangible that you feel you can get to the next level?
I think it definitely shows like the pathway is definitely there, and more people are getting opportunities to go into the senior team. So it's really exciting for all of us, and it could be anyone next. So yeah.
And finally, I've just got to ask about Spain tomorrow. They are so dominant at youth level, but you are unbeaten at the moment this campaign. So how are you thinking about them, and how do you feel you've developed as a team over the last year?
Like you said, we've been unbeaten, and we were able to get the win against France the other day away from home, which is always a nice feeling. And we've got Spain tomorrow, which everyone knows Spain are very dominant on the ball, and we've done our homework on them and hopefully get a win tomorrow or a good result.
Well, it was good to chat to them. Best of luck, girls, taking on Spain, right? So that's always tough. They are
how dominant Spain
they're
are,
so
especially
good
at youth level,
across the levels.
It's crazy. So yeah, it's going to be a tough one, but they're in so much confidence now. So
fingers crossed. Well, that's a wrap on another episode of Extra Time with Girls on the Ball. We're off to Glasgow tomorrow for Scotland versus England, and then the WSL and the Championship are back at the weekend, so we will have plenty to talk about next week. Until then, make sure if you're not already subscribing, leave us a comment, message us on social if there's anything you want us to chat about. But yeah, we'll see you next week.